Welcome to the first workshop of IEEE Curtin Aspire 2026. On behalf of the IEEE Student Branch of Curtin University Colombo, together with the IEEE Student Branches of Curtin University Bentley, Curtin University Malaysia, and Curtin University Dubai, I warmly welcome you all to the workshop 1 of IEEE Curtin Aspire 2026. IEEE Curtin Aspire 2026 is an international innovation and sustainability challenge that brings together undergraduate students from our 4 Curtin campuses to collaborate across borders and develop innovative solutions aligned with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. Over the course of 2 weeks, participants will work in diverse international teams, strengthening not only their technical and problem-solving skills, but also their ability to innovate, collaborate, and think entrepreneurially. Every great innovation begins with understanding the right problem to solve. Today's workshop is designed to help participants build that foundation. Today's session is titled Finding the Right Problem, User Empathy and Challenge Definition. Throughout this workshop, participants will explore how meaningful innovation starts with understanding real-world problems, empathizing with users, and defining challenges that truly matter before jumping into our solutions. These essential skills that will guide every team throughout the Aspire competition. It is my pleasure to introduce today's speaker, Mr. Aloka Gunasekara. Mr. Aloka has spent the last 17 years doing something a lot of us talk about doing, but only a few of us actually excel at. It is figuring out what the problem actually is worth solving. He's done this across places like healthcare, agriculture, and tourism in Sri Lanka, Australia, and the UK, and now Singapore, where he's currently the founder of Local Flow, an AI-powered platform helping travel businesses run smarter. Before founding his own company, Mr. Aloka worked as a venture architect and startup mentor, helping early founders across Asia turn ideas into real businesses through organizations such as Antler and Founder Institute. What makes him an excellent fit for today's session is that his career has been built on the skill of understanding people well enough to know that what they actually need, not just what they say they want. That's the heart of what we are exploring in today's workshop, user empathy and defining the right challenge. Please welcome Mr. Aloka Gunasekara.
Okay, thanks, Mithuli. Thank you very much for that very generous introduction. So let me share my screen and then take things forward from that point onwards. Right, give me a second. Okay. I hope you can see my screen.
Yes.
All righty. Okay. So, first of all, welcome and thank you very much for the opportunity to be given this time to talk to a lot of young entrepreneurs who will actually do some amazing things in the future. So a little bit of a background about myself. So I am currently the founder of Local Flow. It's a tour operations software for travel companies based in Asia. And I'm also the co-founder of something called Open Scope Ventures. It's an independent venture studio. We are working on voice AI and process automation workflows. And both these businesses exist because of problems found by sitting with users, which is exactly what this session is about. In the next 45 minutes, I want to change the order in which your team works during Aspire. Most teams start with an idea. There's absolutely nothing wrong with it. But what I've learned over the years is the winning teams actually start with a problem. So that's what I'm going to be talking about today. So what is going to happen during the demo day is that some teams will demo brilliant solutions to problems that nobody has. Um, I'm not being cynical, I'm being statistical. At every hackathon and innovation challenge that I've been a part of, the most common failure isn't bad execution. It's excellent execution pointed at the wrong target. And here's the good news. This failure is completely avoidable, and avoiding it is a learnable skill. And that's what today is going to be. Now, um, we are going to have this session or structure this session in 4 areas. We are going to be talking about the trap, why smart teams solve the wrong problems, um, and how to spot it early. This is really important. And this is something that I've seen many times. A lot of the smart teams, they actually focus on the wrong problems. And then that essentially becomes a trap, and it's very difficult for them to get out of it. Then the second one I'm going to be talking about is the user. Now, what real empathy looks like, and uh, what are the things that you should be looking at, the behaviors, the workarounds, and the hidden pain that your potential customers or your target audiences could be having. And the third area is the statement. How do you write a problem statement that survives contact with reality? And also, more importantly, the sustainable development goals. And the fourth one is the practice. A case study from the industry and your playbook for the work of Aspire. So those are the few things that we are going to be talking about today. Right. So um, one of the things about the current day and age is that building has never been cheaper. Um, so that actually changes a lot of the things about what wins and who wins. Now, um, it like uh, let me go back to 2011 when I started my first startup or a product. It was a product, or it's a um, property management tool targeted at Australian property owners, small scale Australian property owners. Now, to develop that product, we had to have 8 people, and we developed that product over 4 years until we exited that. So if you look at the amount of time that we spent, it's 32 man years, 8 people into four. Now, um, fast forward to now, I developed local flow on my own just to prove a point, because I've always been a product builder who was not able to code. And then with the amount of work that I've done, I was like, okay, I had some insights about the problems that the travel agencies and the travel companies were having. And I wanted to see, okay, whether can I build a product on my own? And that's what I did. Um, about 90% of local flow is developed by me. There were certain things that I don't have any expertise in, for example, design. For that, I brought in someone who specializes in design. And for security and such, I brought in someone who has specialties in security. But the product, I could develop it on my own. So how that translates to the reality is a working web app. Before, you had to have a dev team and it took months. In our case, it took years. But now you have AI app builders, and you can do an app within a weekend. So if you have access to Versal or V0, Lovable, Gemini, whatever the tool that is, you can actually go ahead and develop an app on your own during a weekend. A polished pitch deck. The first time I stood in front of an investor, the pitch deck took about 2 months of refinement. And I think we spent about good 1 week only on our financial projections. And that included like 4 people. Um, And even then, we weren't happy, and then we had some issues with our potential investors, and then we had to keep refining it just so that we could get a good output. But now you have all these AI design tools, and it probably would take an hour. Um, I mean, just to give a flavor. Um, Obviously, what you are seeing today on my presentation is AI generated. But the advantage that I had was that I have quite a bit of knowledge about the area that I'm talking about. And that knowledge is given to Claude. And Claude basically generated the presentation based on the knowledge that I have given it. So that's also something that you have to understand. And I talk about it when we get to that point later during the presentation. Market research, earlier, it literally took days. Now, deep research tools, it takes you minutes. If you have Perplexity, if you have Gemini, things are a lot more easier for you to do research. And a functional prototype, it essentially took the whole challenge period. So I think you guys have 2 weeks. And back in the day, if you wanted to do a functional prototype, that literally took the 2 weeks. Now, day one, if you know what to build, you just go ahead and do it, and that's it. So that's the reality of the current day and age. I'm sure you guys experiencing this right now. Building has never been cheaper, and that changes what wins. When everyone can build fast, building fast stops being an advantage. In Aspire, every team has access to the same AI tools. So the differentiator moves upstream to the quality of the problem you choose and how deeply you understand it. This connects to a session I run on domain knowledge. As execution gets cheaper, problem understanding becomes the scarce resource. Do keep that in mind. When execution gets cheaper, your problem understanding becomes the scarce resource, not the execution part. And let's look at why smart teams solve the wrong problems. So I've seen 4 main areas why this happens. And of course, for Aspire, I actually uh, customize it for your needs with the fourth reason. The first one is solution first thinking. Usually what happens is the team falls in love with an idea. It could be an app, it could be a drone, a chatbot, whatever it is, and then goes hunting for a problem to justify it. So basically you come up with a solution and then you try to find a problem to fit that solution. Obviously the solution is chosen before the problem is understood. So this is a massive problem. And then the second one is you assume that you have users. You design an imagined person. For example, farmers will want this, students would use that. And in a lot of the Sri Lankan university hackathons, they usually come up with a bus app. Like, how do I get to know when the bus is coming to whatever the bus stop I am at? So these are things that usually happens because you assume that the users are going to be that. And then, of course, you have a confirmation bias. You seek confirmation. You ask yes or no questions just to justify the solution that you already have. So what happens when you do that? You pitch instead of listening. And what usually happens is when you ask these questions, it's a lot easier for people to agree with you because they have absolutely nothing to lose when they agree with you. But the problem is when they do, it sounds as that's validation, but it really isn't. So this confirmation seeking is a massive problem. I've come to the point that whenever I'm working on a new product, what I usually do is I go talk to people without even writing a single line of code, without even having anything. Um, and when I speak to these people, when I speak to my target audience, if these people agree with me, I usually disregard it. It's again, it's not cynical, it's very statistical. I usually ignore the people who agree with me, like the answers they give me. And then if there is someone who disagrees with me, and that's a person that I usually go talk to in depth. Because if you have someone who disagrees with you, that means they need to have an opinion about why they disagree with you. And understanding that opinion is really, really important. So be very careful about this confirmation seeking, because that's going to define how you guys are going to be empathic about the way that you are going forward in Aspire. And then, of course, SDG retrofitting. This is also something that I've seen when it comes to SDG-oriented hackathons. The idea comes first, and an SDG label is attached afterwards to qualify, but the link is very cosmetic, and usually the judges can tell. Now, um, uh, the deal about, okay, so none of these comes from laziness. None of these four reasons happen because of laziness. They come from enthusiasm, and that's something that you have to be very careful about. You fall in love with a solution and it feels like progress. But enthusiasm for a solution is not evidence of a problem. And this is one thing that you have to keep in mind. And specifically on SDG retrofitting, the SDGs are a map of the world's most validated problems. Decades of research has gone into it. And then this research tells exactly what actually harms people. Um, when used properly, understanding of the SDGs is actually a head start. It's not a checkbox. And we'll come back to this later. Now, we talked about a lot of these things. Now, a great solution to a wrong problem is still a wrong solution. Now, unlike a bug in your code, this one cannot be fixed in week number 2. If the problem is wrong, everything built on top of it is also wrong. So this is something that you have to keep in mind. Let me give you an example. This is a very popular example, but let me talk about it anyway. I don't know whether you've heard of this product called Juicero. It happened in 2016. It was a $400 Wi-Fi connected machine that squeezed proprietary juice packs. Absolutely brilliant design. If you have seen the advertisements for Juicero and the videos for Juicero, I mean, even you, like all of us would, I fell in love with it when it came out. Advertisements came out. Product was a different story, but it was a brilliant, brilliant marketing campaign. They raised over $120 million in funding, and then there was serious hardware talent that went into that product. But then what happened was, I think it was TechCrunch who discovered this. They discovered that you could actually squeeze the pack and then get the juice with your hands. You actually didn't need a machine. So the company shut down within months. Now, the real failure is nobody validated that the problem of squeezing juice packs is hard. They did not validate whether that problem existed at all. But the fact of the matter is that the execution was world class. I mean, the product was amazing. The marketing was amazing. But the problem was imaginary. So this wasn't a student team. They were experienced engineers with serious money behind them. I mean, $120 million behind them. That's a massive bet that, few people took on this particular product. But they also fell into this trap of not understanding their problem. So keep in mind, we too can fall into that problem or trap. The trap doesn't care how talented you are. So that's the one thing that you have to keep in mind. So now we talked about this problem, but how do you avoid it? How do you go to where the answers actually live? You do that by going to users, not imaginary users, not people that you conjure in your mind, but you actually go and talk to the real users. Um, and when it comes to users, empathy is not necessarily a feeling, it's actually a research method. Um, when designers say empathy, they don't mean feeling sorry for someone. They actually mean building an accurate model of someone else's reality, accurate enough to make design decisions with. Now, keep that in mind, right? So you get enough information so that you can actually make decisions about the problems that those people are having. Now, when we talk about empathy, um, what should we look for? Now, there are a few things about it. So this is not necessarily surveys. And then these four things you really have to keep in mind. So I'll give you an example. So when I wanted to build local flow, I spoke to 5 people. And that's the initial user research that I did. One of those people that who I spoke to actually became my co-founder, so things became a lot more easier. So when I spoke to them, all I wanted to understand was, okay, what they are doing right now, how do they solve the problems that they have, and also like what are the workarounds that they have, their contexts and constraints, and of course what success means to them. Um, I'm not harping, I'm not selling my own thing, but I'm using this as an example. Um, so one of the things I did was I got this observation in Malaysia that tour companies put a lot of manual effort into how they do things, and I found that very interesting. And I came back to Sri Lanka, and then I spoke to one of my friends who had invested in a travel company. And I told him, hey, look, I had this observation in Malaysia, like it can't be true, right? And he said, no, it's a reality. Like they're putting a lot of effort into managing a tour operation. I'm like, okay, that can't be true. Um, this was a year ago. And I'm like, okay, so we have all this AI going on, like, why aren't you guys using any of these tools? And he was like, look, we have a lot of domain knowledge, and that domain knowledge is not easily transferable to AI. And that I found to be very interesting. And what I got to know is that a lot of the information that people have about travel operations, it's very, very tacit. Like it's passed on from one generation of employees to the next generation of employees, and it's never written down. It's usually kept in like Excel sheets or like itineraries or some sort of a document that only a few people would understand. And this is one of the biggest observations. And this is very true for the Asian market itself. So if you look at a lot of the knowledge that we get from AI, a lot of that knowledge is actually curated in US or in the Western Hemisphere. But what happens is when it comes to the Asian countries, a lot of that knowledge is not curated. Or if that knowledge is available, that's available in local languages. And it's very difficult to like translate that back to something that an AI would understand. Um, so this is one of my observations, and I realized that, okay, you have like one of the hottest topics in AI right now is travel. I mean, yes, that's true. But at the same time, a lot of the knowledge that the travel agencies or destination management companies have in markets like Sri Lanka or Thailand or Indonesia or Malaysia, Southeast Asia in general, it's not curated properly for all of these reasons. And that's why I thought that, okay, I might as well just do something for the Asian market. And I also looked at the workarounds that they have. Now they have negotiated terms, but what usually happens is whenever they have, say, a large tour or like large party coming down to Sri Lanka, they pick up the phone, call their friend or colleague in a different hotel and say, okay, look, we have 30 people coming down to Sri Lanka. These guys are going to these places, and I want you to give me a really good rate. So that part, it's really difficult to bring into a process. So these are some of the observations, and what are the workarounds that they have. So we looked into all of these different things, and what we realize is that our biggest competitor is not any other application or not any other software as a service, but it's actually Excel. So understanding this context and constraints allowed us to come up with a better tool that actually helped them to be successful. Um, in local flows case, uh, what success means to them is being able to create a complete tour within about 20 minutes. So what that means is they do the routing, itinerary, do the costing, do all of that, and then in about 20 minutes, everything is done. And why that matters is if you can send out all that information to a potential customer within the first hour of getting an inquiry, there's about an 80% chance of them winning that sale. And that's actually happening with the customers that we are having right now. So since our customers can send out an itinerary and a quotation within the first hour of getting a request from one of their customers, they are able to close that sale a lot more faster. So when you look at all of these things, a workaround is actually a gift. It means that users care enough about the problem to solve it bad. So calling people up, using Excel or using WhatsApp, all of these were the workarounds that our customers were using until we came along. Um, and they were using it quite badly, but they were solving it somehow. And they were using those solutions every day at their own cost. And you don't have to convince them that the problem exists. They already are paying for it. And when you have that sort of understanding of what's going on, things become a lot more easier for you to understand what's going on. And understanding what they're doing, what their jobs, um, and the workarounds they have, the context and the constraints, and of course, what success means to them. When you understand these four components, it becomes very easy for you to understand the problem so that you can do a better solution. So this is what user empathy actually looks for, right? And then you also have to be very careful about the sort of things that you ask your potential users or target audience. Uh, One of the things that you have to do is you have to always ask about the past, not the future. Um, Here are some questions that you should not be asking. Would you use an app that did this? Do you think this is a good idea? How much would you pay for it? Isn't it frustrating where you are basically at that point, you are basically giving them a solution? Oh, sorry, you're actually giving them an answer that they can easily like fall in line with. Um, as opposed to those, the questions that actually tell the truth is, tell me about the last time this happened. What did you do about it? What did that cost you in time, money, and stress? Have you tried to fix it? And what happened? So honestly, this is the most immediately usable slide in our presentation. I mean, if you want to screenshot it, please go ahead and do that. The pattern is simple. Uh, Past tense, specific incidents, actual behavior, and if someone says that the problem is huge, but has never once tried to solve it, believe their behavior, not their words. Uh, so credit where credit is due. This approach was popularized by Rob Fitzpatrick, the mom test. It's worth a read after the challenge that you are taking part in right now. Right. Okay. So moving on, uh, this is what I talked about earlier, right? The problem statement was sitting literally in a spreadsheet, right? So like I said, I sat down with Sri Lankan tour operators. I asked them to walk me through a booking, and honestly, nobody asked for a software. Uh, what they usually did was they opened their Excel, they opened their WhatsApp, they opened their Canva, and they were like showing me things in a disjointed fashion. So there's a lot of context switching involved when they actually wanted to do their work. And it is very normal for them. Because another thing that you have to understand is for the people who are living in a problem, that's their reality. It usually takes an outsider to come in and figure out that, okay, these guys are living in a bit of a problematic place. And I was outside. Um, so when all of these guys were showing these things, they were never asking, they weren't asking for software. They were just telling me like, okay, what they're doing. Uh, so some of the most successful tour operations in Sri Lanka, for example, they are run on like massive spreadsheets. Some of these spreadsheets are older than 5 years. Like, thankfully, a lot of these organizations are now using Microsoft, so now it's synced. But I also came across a few companies that's none of these things are synced. It's the master file is on somebody's laptop, and if that laptop gets stolen or something happens to that, then they're done. Um, so a lot of this information, you have bookings, drivers, hotels, payments. These are copied between files by hand. I mean, you just do a control C and control V from here to there, but it's held together by one person or a couple of people who could actually never take a holiday. So it's very sort of unfortunate that these are the sort of people who are looking for the down season so that they could take a break. So the insight is the spreadsheets was the workaround, and the workaround was the problem statement itself. Uh, Literally nobody said that they wanted a two operations platform. The behavior actually told it to them. So what's happening right now is whenever we are doing our demos to our potential customers, we basically tell them, hey, look, okay, this is what you could do. And one of the challenges is that it's still very difficult for them to grasp because they've been living in this system for a very long time. So the point here is that if I had sent a survey asking, do you need a booking software? Many would have said no. They had a system. They literally have a system. It worked, sort of. The pain only became visible when you watch the actual work happen. Key lesson for the Aspire participants is that, okay, ask people to show you how they handle something today. The workaround they show you is more honest than any answer that they will give to you. So if I condense all of these things that I told you right now, the users will not tell you the problem, they show it to you. So you have to work through their workarounds. So if your team remembers one sentence from today, make it this one. Right. Moving on. Here's some plan for you, right? Your empathy plan for week 1. This is a realistic version. Have 5 real conversations, ask for stories, not their opinions, hunt for workarounds, and write down what surprised you. Okay, so have 5 real conversations. You don't have to have 50 conversations. No, 5 people who can actually live near the problem. call them, chat to them, WhatsApp them, or go meet them. That's the best one because you can actually see their facial expressions and such. So you uh, ask these across the 4 campuses, the 4 countries. Your team can reach uh, your team can reach people that your competitors can't. So that's actually a massive advantage that you guys have because you are going to be working with multiple people from multiple countries. That's an advantage. The second one, ask for stories. Like, uh, tell me about the last time. What did you do? What did it cost you? These are the real questions. Record or take notes. Like uh, one thing that you have to do is keep remembering that, okay, memory flattens the details that matter. So do write it down. And that's going to be really, really important. Ideal case, have 2 people, one person talks, the other person writes down. That's the best way to go about it. Then, third one is hunt for workarounds. You ask people to show you how they handle it today. Screenshots, photos, spreadsheets. Every workaround you find is validated evidence for your final pitch. And the last one, write down what surprised you. So keep this in mind. Uh, every time I meet a new customer, it surprises me massively. Um, I mean, I meet customers on a daily basis, potential customers, and every time they tell me something, I'm like, is it real or is it happening? Like, okay, how are we not addressing those issues? So those are the sort of questions that go through my mind when I listen to them. So if nothing surprises you, I don't think you've been listening. Um, you've been looking for things to confirm on, and that's confirmation bias. Be very careful about that. Um, the surprises are where the real problem definition lives. So keep that in mind. Um, like if you find yourself questioning, or if you find, is it possible or is it real? Look for these cues, and then keep them in mind because those are the real insights about the problem that you're trying to solve. Um, so here's the deal. 2 weeks is short, and then what usually happens is teams are tempted to skip straight to building, but 5 conversations, you can have it in one afternoon. It is the highest ROI afternoon of your entire challenge during these 2 weeks. And you also have like this massive cross-campus advantage. You have teammates in, if I remember right, you have teammates in Perth, Colombo, Malaysia, and Dubai. I mean, that's 4 different user contexts for the same SDG problems. Use it. It's a massively uh, unfair advantage, and there's a genuine unfair advantage. Use it. Right. Moving on to the third section, the statement. Turning what you heard into a problem worth 2 weeks of your life. Now, the deal is you listen, you found workarounds, now you come to the discipline part. You have to compress everything you learned into one testable solution because that's what we've been doing. Okay. So this is the anatomy of a real problem statement. Okay, so a specific user struggles with a specific problem when something happens because root cause. What caused them is some measurable impact. So let me just put this two problem statements into comparison. A weak one would be food waste is a huge problem. So we're building an app to reduce it. But a very, very strong one would be small urban restaurants over order perishable near closing time because they can't predict late footfall, throwing away stock worth roughly a day of profit each week. So uh, a good problem statement contains no solution. And this is something that you have to remember. The moment your problem statement mentions an app, you stop defining and start pitching. So this is something that you really have to keep in mind. You really have to have a specific user a moment, a cost. Notice no solution is mentioned, and the statement leaves room for discover the right solution. So this slide is also something that I think you should screenshot, because if you do this right, you will have a very, very strong problem statement that you can actually build a really good solution on. To test any of these problem statements, I have a small litmus test. And the litmus test is, could a brilliant new teammate who knows their craft but nothing about your users act on this statement without asking a single follow-up question? So here's a modern version of this, so to speak. Paste your problem statement into an AI assistant and ask it to propose solutions. If the AI has to guess or ask any clarifying questions, your statement is underspecified. If it produces something generic, your statement was, again, generic. AI honestly is a mirror for the quality of your problem definition. So this is something that you have to keep in mind. This is actually a test that I used in another workshop that I run on domain knowledge and AI. And it applies directly to the work that you guys are doing. Again, could a brilliant teammate who knows their craft but nothing about your users act on the statement or the problem statement that you created without asking a single follow-up question? And this is a bit of a litmus test. And if you use AI to give you a problem statement and get some feedback about it, that also works. Okay. Then you also have to have some stress tests about the problem that you have. And this is it real? Like, did you actually see evidence, stories, workaround, costs from actual users? Or does it exist mainly in your team slide deck? Is it real? That's the first question that you have to ask. Is it frequent? Does it happen weekly or once a year? What's the frequency of it? What turns an annoyance into a priority for solving? Like, this is the second question that you have to ask. And the third one is it painful? What does it cost? It has to have some sort of cost. It can cost money, it can cost hours, it can cost safety, dignity. If users shrug when you mention it, they shrug at your solution too. Are users reachable? Can your team actually talk to these users during the challenge? And could a real solution actually reach them after it? Like, in this day and age, the fourth question is a lot more easy to answer than the other three things. But still, it's a very, very important question that you have to ask yourself to stress test your problem. And the takeaway here is that your problem needs to pass all four. 3 out of 4 is honestly a polite no. And most common failure at student challenges is question number 3. The problem is real but mild. Mild problems produce mild solutions and mild pitches. Pick a problem that costs someone something that they genuinely care about. So with question number 4, you do have a bit of a 2-week challenge. You need to be able to reach these people during Aspire. I mean, it matters as much as how many people or what's the scale that you can reach in a given period of time. And then I come to a very important point here again. The SDG should emerge from the problem and should not be a decoration. So, I mean, the retrofitted version would be in this case. We built a campus event app is SDG 11 because cities, and SDG 3 because well-being, and SDG 9 because innovation. That's essentially how you retrofit it. And I've seen this happen. I've been to many a hackathon where SDGs are a concern. And this is how people would actually pitch it. But if you are problem read, then it's going to be a completely different approach. So you would say things like our users lose learning access because support only exists in language that they don't speak. Um, that's SDG 4, target 4.5, equal access to education for the marginalized, right? So this is actually something that we did with one of our products. I'll talk about it. So how you frame SDGs is that, okay, you have to let the SDGs emerge from the problem itself. Do not decorate it. That's the wrong way to go about it. And then I'm going to the fourth section, which is the practice. And let me show you what all of this looks like when it works on a real project with real users shipped this year. And this is something that we actually did. And that project is SLIT. SLIT is a Sri Lankan university. It stands for Sri Lanka Institute of Information Technology. They have about 25,000 students. And we, with them, through one of our products at OpenScope, our venture studio, we launched something called Peak Agents. It's Sri Lanka's first trilingual AI student assistant. I think it's a month back when we launched it as a pilot. So it's serving 35,000 students right now in single Tamil and English. We're just doing the tests, but it'll be rolled out quite soon to all 25,000 of them. I mean, the tempting frame for that would be universities need AI. That's a solution looking for a problem. But the real problem is students were underserved in their own languages. I mean, support existed, but not equal for everyone. The support team, I mean, they're really good at SLIT, but at the same time, we are talking about 25,000 students, and then like they're spread thin. So because of that, and also like when you actually have a problem as a student that you need some answer for some course that you are doing, it could be like 9 p.m. at night. So if you have that question and if you don't have a way to get a like a concrete answer for that, that's a real problem. So what happened was we looked at this problem, and then because of the problem, because we looked at the problem, it became trilingual by design. It's not a feature added later, but the core requirement that the problem demanded, and then 24/7 availability because the pain peaked outside office hours, definitely. And then, of course, we do have a SDG alignment, quality education, reducing inequalities, that emerged naturally. We didn't look for that. And we didn't need any retrofitting. Now, the deal is the AI was the easy part. I mean, voice AI is mature technology. The hard part, the valuable part, was understanding what the real problem was, and that is linguistic equity in student support. That's a real problem. Once that was clear, every design decision made itself. It's trilingual, of course, and it's always on. Now, notice the SDG mapping cost us zero effort. Remember my previous slide? This. So the SDG mapping costs us zero effort. When the problem is real, the SDG connection is already there. You just have to point at it. That's it. Now, with that, I'm going to again talk about the practice. There are 4 things that you should ideally do before you build anything. Have 5 user conversations. You definitely have to have 1 written problem statement. Pass the 4 tests. Like, is it real? Is it frequent? Is there a pain? Are the users reachable? Those are the 4 tests. And then name your SDG target. So this is also one of those screenshot slides. Everything from today compresses into these 4 boxes. if your team finishes this before opening a single build tool, you will be ahead of most teams in this challenge. Not because you build faster, but because you aimed better. Right. So this is where, I mean, these few slides is where your actual action happens. So this is an exercise for you. Write your team's problem in exactly 2 sentences, then test what you wrote. Did you describe the problem? Is it a symptom? Did you name who is affected and what caused them? Could a brilliant new teammate act on it without follow-up questions? And is there a solution hiding inside your sentence? If you do, remove it. Genuinely pause this video at this point. If you're watching this with your team, do it together. Each person writes their own 2 sentences first, then compare. The differences between your versions will show you what your team hasn't agreed on yet. If your sentence contained an app, a platform, a dashboard, that is your signal. You're still in love with the solution. You have to do the other thing. You have to fall in love with the problem. Right. What changes tomorrow? Okay. Before you pick an idea, go find a workaround. Before you write the statement, ask about the past, not the future. Before you build, pass the 4 tests, name the target. 3 habits, none of them require talent, budget, or permission. They just require going in the right order. That's it. That's all about it. Yeah. The teams that win Aspire won't be the ones who build the most. They'll be the ones who understood the most. So building is now the easy part. You have tools this year that didn't exist 2 years ago. Understanding is the part that is fully human. Still fully yours. Spend your first week there, and your second week will take care of itself. Good luck. If you have any questions, you can ask them now.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gunasekara, for that insightful session. Your experiences and practical insights have given us an excellent foundation for the innovation journey ahead. We truly appreciate you for taking the time to share your knowledge and experiences with us. We'd like to spend a few minutes asking you what we feel many participants may have as questions as they prepare for the competition. Let's
Okay.
move on to our Q&A session. When working in a team of 5, everyone may have different ideas about which problem to pursue. What
Yeah.
advice would you give teams on reaching a conscious and deciding on one clear problem statement that everyone can support?
Right. Okay. So especially in the early, okay. So let me take an example from Startup Weekend. So Startup Weekend is very similar to how you guys are running Aspire. Completely new people coming together and then they try to solve problems. So one of the things that we do is so you have 5 people and then all the 5 people write their ideas down and then you vote. So whatever the idea that has the most number of votes usually gets pushed, and then you talk about it, and then you figure out like, okay, what is this problem? I mean, do people actually have that problem? And then you try to figure out who are the people who are having it and what's the context of this. So essentially apply the framework that I shared right now into the problems, and then you'll figure out, okay, what's the strongest problem that you should be focusing on. So that's the easiest way to go about it. If you have more people in the team, then it becomes a lot more easier because you have more people to vote. But since it's 5 people, it's going to be like 5 votes. So it becomes very dicey. But apply the framework, then things are going to be a lot more easier.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Aloka. I think that's valuable advice that you have shared for our participants, since they will be working in diverse and international teams throughout this challenge. Moving on to our next question. How can we use AI tools to support problem identification and research without relying on them too heavily or losing genuine user empathy?
My suggestion would be don't rely on AI too much for problem identification, because this is one of those areas where AI genuinely resonates. And if you have used any of the new cloud models, my God, it's so confident. Like even when it's so wrong, it's so confident. Like if, like you as a person, you are questioning yourself, like, okay, am I right or is this thing right? So um, you have to be very, very careful when you use problems. Ideal case, talk to real people, understand what's going on. And also, one of the things that you have to understand is that the context. Um, when it comes to places like Sri Lanka, or like the areas where you are going to be doing this, or where your students are at, a lot of the knowledge is not necessarily curated enough so that the AI would have access to it. So it's really important that you actually talk to people. And then there's also one important thing that you have to understand. AI is really good at certain things, but AI is really bad at certain things. And this area that you're talking about is one of those. Um, like sustainable development goals, we are focusing on these right now because those are problems worth solving. Um, but a lot of the areas where these problems exist, um, they don't have a lot of access to a lot of things. So the best way to go about it is you actually talk to people. And then once you have like really good problem statements, you validate those problem statements with the AI. Yeah, you can get citations, you can do some deep research and understand like how deep a problem this is. So that would be my suggestion for that. Human knowledge, domain knowledge, that's really important. You use that to identify the problem. And once you have identified the problem, use the AI to validate whatever that you know about that problem.
Thank you very much, sir. Our next question is, when we have limited time to research a problem, what are the most effective ways to quickly understand users and validate that the problem actually exists?
Ah, Open-ended questions. Do not ask them yes or no questions. That's really important. If you ask them yes or no questions, then it's going to be a yes or no answer, and then you have to learn nothing. But if you ask them open-ended questions, then they are going to give you like a long answers, and those longer answers are going to give you some insight about what you can do. Uh, that's really important. So open-ended questions is the easiest way for you to understand a problem really, really well. And then if you want some more insights about it, you can probably use something like Perplexity.
Thank you so much, sir. That is the end of our Q&A session. And I believe this advice is what most of our participants will require the most to create the perfect solution to their problem. Thank you once again, Mr. Gunasekara. Now, as a token of our sincere appreciation for sharing your expertise and inspiring our participants, we would like to present you with this virtual token of appreciation on behalf of the IEEE student branches of Curtin University. Thank you very much, so much for being part of IEEE Curtin Aspire 2026 and for helping us and inspire the next generation of innovators.
All right. Thank you very much.
With that, we come to the end of workshop 1. To all our Aspire participants, we hope this session has encouraged you to look beyond simply generating ideas and instead focus on understanding the people and problems that truly deserve innovation solutions. We wish you all the very best as you begin your journey in IEEE Curtin Aspire 2026. Thank you for watching, and we look forward to seeing the innovation solutions you create. All the best and good luck. Have a good day.
Mr.